Well, joining us now for more discussions is African Affairs Analyst Achike Chude. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Lion.
Well, this transitional charter is coming just weeks after a series of meetings with various members of society, the junta meeting with religious and political leaders, and also ECOWAS. What impacts do you think this will have, in accelerating Guinea's return to civilian rule?
Well, I think this is, Africa has been rife with coups over the past few decades, especially from the periods of independence. And so this is nothing new. What we're seeing is what we have been used to seeing in Africa. A new government comes in undemocratically through military intervention. The people hail that government because they have been disappointed by the civilian administrations that should have done much better than they did. And so they begin to look at these people who would eventually be their oppressors, eventually as the heroes. Because they have gotten rid of the previous government that didn't really add value to their lives. And so it's unfortunate from what we're seeing. I do not think there's going to be anything new that will change, regardless of the name that you give whatever military arrangement or civilian arrangement that comes that is put in place. It's sad. I do not. Yes, they have been consulting with a lot of people, and that is good. You could look at it from that perspective, and you could say it is good. But if you look at it deeply, you realize that the people they are consulting, the organizations they are consulting, do not really have a say, on what is going to happen. They're just going to tell them what they want to do, and they try to get them, on board. But even if they are not willing to get on board, the military junta will just, as well go ahead and do whatever they want to do. And so let's see how it develops. Now this is the period of romance. Eventually, the law will begin to wear away because there will be expectations, even in the short term, not to talk of the long term. And so by the time people begin to see the government move in a completely different way and they change their posturing towards the government, how is the military junta going to react? It is at that moment that the people will have to, ask themselves whether these people are actually the liberators or they are going to add to their wounds. So it's still early days yet. Let's see. The discussion is a good thing, but it doesn't end at that.
Well, they've called it the Transitional Charter, and they've also announced how it will be made up, with Colonel Doumbouya being president. What do you think? Isn't that a win for the junta, seeing that this is the same man who was the coup leader, and now he would be president of the charter?
Yes, well, I think it's a dilemma for ECOWAS because, of course, you know that ECOWAS has been involved in all of the coups that have been taking place to ensure that there's some level of, that there is as quickly as possible a move to civilian governance. But it is not a good one for ECOWAS and the international community. And because what we're seeing is
we have all silent.
Yeah, because rather than discourage the coupists, what it is happening is that these arrangements, just like you have talked about, these arrangements where people who have been involved in a treasonable act. Do not also forget that the act of violent overthrow of a civilian government, an elected government, is in itself a treasonable act. It is an offense. And so you find a situation where ECOWAS finds itself, is in a dilemma with what to do with the coupists. And so what they do is, accommodate them through a political arrangement of a transition government. And so you find the people who have committed very serious crimes against the state being brought in as part of the solution to resolving the crisis that they themselves in the first place, it brought about. So they are kind of rewarding the people who should be punished. So there's nothing punitive about what is going on. You can see what the coupists in Guinea have done. They have moved ahead of ECOWAS. The discussions that ECOWAS had in places like Niger and Chad and so on, with the opposition groups and the civil society groups, the Guinean military leadership has gone ahead to do that. So that tells you that really they are in the driving seat. It's unfortunate, like you said. I mean, it is a reward, and that's why we have seen, all of these coups that are taking place in one country or the other in West Africa. You see it being replicated in other countries in West Africa, because there's a reward system. Everything that happens ultimately at the end of the day seems to reward the people who should be punished, and that is what has emboldened others.
All right, then, African Affairs Analyst Chike Chude, thank you for your thoughts on Network Africa.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.